Yeah, so I'm gonna jump right into it. We got a lot of information to impact. We're gonna play a little bit of music in between a little bit later. So, what is the clarity matrix? It's something I created and patent because I've been doing some research on a whole lot of topics, and I came up with the Clarity Project, and within it, this is a matrix, right? So we're all operating in a system, but we really don't always know where we are within the matrix. So I'm going to try to clear it up a little bit. The Clarity Matrix is an operating system for examining our life before we actually react to it. That's what it is. For the next several weeks, we're going to be put into a matrix, just metaphorically speaking, right? Because we live inside an operating system. For example, some of us have iPhones, some of us have Androids, right? They're both operating systems. And we can live in the same household, but use different operating systems, right? And they don't necessarily always merge together. So just kind of like to get your mind wrapped around, you can be in the same dwelling, the same place, and have different experiences, right? So we're going to talk about relationships, corporate systems, time management, finance. Not all tonight. Relationships is basically how we relate. It's how we relate, right? So underneath this topic, right, the question is, what is my responsibility? Like, this is what we should be asking ourselves as we're listening responsibly. What is my responsibility? This is not about pointing the finger at who did what to you. This is about looking at yourself, because clarity without responsibility doesn't change much at all. So it's not going to work if you're not going to hold yourself accountable and look at yourself. And then we'll talk about why we're looking at ourselves and not others, even though they did it to you. We're focusing tonight on ourselves. Clarity shows you what's happening. Responsibility determines what you do with what you see, right? Tonight we're going to keep coming back to the same matrix. What happened? What am I feeling? What am I assuming? What did I expect? What is the expectation communicated, right? What patterns exist? What belongs to me? What belongs to them? What can I control? What can I do with what I can control? What happens next? Once I learn information tonight, what happens next? Who should I blame? Who not to blame? Who should I judge? Who not to judge? So you're not going to get instant answers. And this is why I call it an investigation, right? Clarity is not about proving who is wrong. It's actually about understanding what is the truth. That's what clarity is. It's about fact, feeling, assumption, expectations, right? Let me show you how quickly relationships can become confusing, right? Someone doesn't call you back. Someone does not call you back. That's a fact, right? They didn't call. That's a fact. You felt ignored, right? That's an assumption. They don't care about me. That's an assumption, right? Here's the expectation. If they cared about me, they would have returned my call. You see what just happened? You just went through a process that you created your whole entire self that may not be necessarily true. See, there were 4 different layers there. Your feeling is real, but the fact that that person didn't answer the phone or call you back, you created your own scenario. And see, that's not clarity. That's you creating your own scenario. See, your explanation of your feelings may still need to be investigated, because your feelings may be from a shaky foundation. For example, maybe that person didn't call you back because the phone died, or maybe they were too busy, or maybe something happened. Maybe there was an emergency. But before you get to the truth, what happens? We create scenarios, and then we build off of those scenarios. And sometimes we believe that it's a broken thing. The circumstances are broken. This person don't care. I'm not important. I'm not a priority. And you drum up all this data in your head, but that's without clarity. But sometimes we're fighting about what happened, and sometimes we're actually fighting about the meaning we assign to what happened. That is really deep if you got that. Sometimes we're fighting about what happened, and then sometimes we're actually fighting about the meaning we assign to what we believe happened. That's deep. That is very, very, very deep. And what does that mean in a nutshell? Is that when we don't have answers, we assign answers to what we believe is now truth. And that's not what clarity is. That's literally an assumption. And we do this in relationships all the time. We move and make emotional decisions based on assumptions, not clarity, right? So before we talk about anybody else, let's begin with the person who appears in every single relationship. The person that appears in every relationship is you. That's right, you're present for every relationship. Let me ask you something, and be honest, since we are an honest, intelligent crowd. See, clarity, seeking clarity, and the Clarity Project is about intelligent people, responsible people, mature, professional people on our level that sometimes may miss the mark. So this has nothing to do with our level of education. We're all professional, well-lived people, but sometimes we miss marks. You get what I'm saying? Right. So let me ask you a question. And I know most of y'all are gonna not be honest, but listen. This is the time to be honest. Do you trust yourself? Not do you love yourself. Do you trust yourself? Do you think you're a good person? Do you think you're a good person? Do you trust yourself? When you say I'm done, do you believe yourself? When you say I'm going to change, do you actually follow through? When you say I'm going to protect my peace, is that a choice that you literally made, or did you just speak it? When you promise yourself something, do you keep your own word? Put the responses in the chat. Yes, no, working on it. We're going to talk about it after this. Good evening to you, Mr. D. Morey. I see somebody paying attention. Asia say she's working on it. Bridget working on it. Eloise is working on it. That's right. Let's be honest. Come on. We don't get to it. Tara says sometimes. Okay. These are good responses. That's right. We're not perfect. Michelle P says sometimes. Yeah, we're not perfect. We're not. There are times I trust myself, and there are times I'm working on it, because I'll say things like I'm going to go to the gym, and I don't keep my word, and I'm not perfect. So I'm working on it sometimes. Both. Latrice says, when you put it that way, I guess I don't trust myself. I'm a kind person, but I don't follow through on my promises. And this is true for a lot of us. A lot of us don't follow through on our promises. And that's all right. We're going to feel better after this conversation. You know, honesty is the best policy. Let's talk about self-trust. Self-trust it's not built by what we promise ourselves. It is built by what we repeatedly prove to ourselves. So put yourself in a situation where you have something to prove to yourself, right? It's not necessarily about what promises you made to yourself. It's about what you're willing to prove to yourself with the promise, which is basically completing the task, completing what you said you're going to do, right? And following through. And hopefully this is helping us. Let's talk about self-respect, because it leads right into it. We talk about self-love constantly, right? But let's talk about self-respect. And this has so much to do with relationships, because relationships takes more than one person, but it starts with self. So we know what self-love is. Self-love says, I care about myself. But self-respect asks the question, what am I willing to require from myself? Think about that. Self-respect means I don't have to make myself small to preserve somebody else's comfort. And this is important in every relationship. You don't have to minimize yourself to preserve somebody else's comfort level. That's what self-respect is. And self-respect also means I don't get to use that quote, that's just who I am, as an excuse for bad behavior. Change. I hear a lot of people say, that's just how I am. Well, if how you are is not good, is that really true self-respect? Because that means you're receiving or willing to be that person that may not be a decent human being. Is that really self-respect? I don't know. So stop doing it if it's not good. Maybe disrespecting yourself looks like constantly abandoning your goals, right? Anybody ever abandon their goals? That's a form of disrespect, in my opinion. Maybe it looks like remaining somewhere you already know is destructive. That's disrespectful to yourself. Maybe it looks like refusing help because you need everybody to think you got it together. I'm talking to somebody. So I need you to help me finish this sentence. I respect myself more when I blank. Think about that. I respect myself more when I blink? That answer will give you so much information. It gives you so much information. Here's another thing. This is very important to understand. We hear this a lot. Let's teach people how to treat us. I'm going to dive into this because this is all relative to relationships with self and others. Teach people how to treat you. How many times we've heard that? We hear this phrase, right? You teach people how to treat you. There's truth in this. But let me make it more precise. You cannot control another adult. You cannot force somebody to respect you. You cannot force somebody to speak to you properly. You cannot force somebody to change. But what you can do is communicate your expectations. You can respond. You're in control of how you respond. And you can also determine what type of access do you allow to continue. That's self-respect. See, you teach people what treatment will continue to have access to you. That's what you teach people. What level of access that they can get to you. And you're in complete control of that. Let's talk about boundaries, right? We hear this all the time. I'm digging into it, right? Tonight we're going in. Boundaries. A boundary without a decision attached to repeated violations eventually becomes a suggestion. See, a boundary is not primarily, you can't do that. A boundary is, if this continues, here's what I will do. That's what a boundary is. See, I hear a lot of people say, I'm setting boundaries. You can't do that to me. You can't speak to me that way. That is not a boundary. A boundary is when or if you do this, I will do that. See, that's a perimeter. That's a boundary. See, saying you can't do that is almost like an empty threat. A boundary cannot be crossed because you're in control of it. Say something simple. If this continues, here's what I'll do. That's responsibility. That's self-respect. I'm trying to help somebody. Self-respect is so important. So we're gonna delve right into family, and stand by, because after we talk about family, we're going to talk about dating and personal relationships. So we're going to cover it all. Y'all stay with it, brother. Stay with me. So let's talk about the second topic, family. Family. I don't know if I need to take a commercial break, but this is going to dive in deep. It's going to make us smile. It's going to make us cry. It's going to make us self-check, self-reflect, right? I'm going to dive right into it. Family. Now we move into the relationships we were born into. These are the relationships we were born into. Family. And I don't want to start with, is your family good or bad? Here's the question. Who are you in your family? And I want you to answer this in the chat. Who are you in your family? Are you the strong one? Are you the provider? Are you the peacemaker? Are you the responsible one? Are you the rescuer? Are you the successful one? Are you the black sheep? Are you the quiet one? Are you the forgotten one? Are you one that everyone calls? Are you the one who isn't allowed to fall apart? Are you that one that's not allowed to fall apart? Put your role in the chat. We'll talk about it. So ask yourself, did you choose that role, or was that role assigned to you? See, maybe you're not naturally the strong one. Maybe no one ever gave you permission to be weak. Maybe you're not naturally the rescuer. Maybe everybody learned that when they create an emergency, you would be the one to solve it. Maybe you're not naturally the provider. Maybe your success became because everyone else needed an emergency fund. Think about that. So maybe you had to become those things. Some of us aren't exhausted by our families. We're exhausted by the role we've been given to perform for our families. What happens when the strong one says, I'm tired? Think about that. Do we really listen when the strong one says, I'm tired? What happens when a provider says, I can't do it this time, I just don't have it? What happens when the peacemaker says, this argument doesn't belong to me, it's not my problem? What happens when the person who always says yes finally says no? You know what happens? Someone says, you've changed. Maybe you have. But maybe you stop performing a version of yourself that everybody else had become comfortable with. Sometimes people don't resist your growth because they hate your growth. They resist it because your growth changes their access to the old version of who you used to be. A family relationship has to evolve. Your child may always be your child. Your child will always be your child. But your 25, 30, 40, 50-year-old child is no longer your 15-year-old child. See, when they hit 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, even 60, right? Eventually, parenting has to make room for a relationship. It has to make room for an evolved relationship. See, an adult child have to evolve too. Eventually, you have to meet mom as a mom who's now a woman. See, at some point, your mom has always been a woman, right? Your dad has always been a man. See, you may have to meet them where they are or where they were. See, human beings are actually who they are, but we only see our parents as a mother or a father. Sometimes we forget to see them as actually human beings. See, think about that for a second. It sounds so cliche, but we see women and men as women and men, but we see our parents as mom and dad. And we see our children as children, but we see other people as adults. Think about that. So if your son is 20, 30, 40 years old, you see his friends as men, and you see your son as your son or daughter, but they're human beings. They're people now. They're adults. I know a lot of y'all might be struggling with that. See, we all, when we become adults, we all face pressures, failures, dreams, financial struggles, relationship struggles, and things that nobody taught them. So your children will face things that you never taught them because you cannot possibly teach them for every scenario. And there will be scenarios that they face that you could not have prepared them for. It's just life, right? So let me provide some context. Understanding somebody's story doesn't erase what they did. Sometimes it helps explain the operating system they were using when they did it. Let me say that again. So those of you that may have strained relationships with your siblings, strained relationships with your mother, strained relationships with your father, or strained relationships with your children, I want you to understand something. Somebody's story doesn't erase what they did, but sometimes it helps explain the operating system they were using when they did it. So maybe they did what they did when they were doing what they were doing, and they were at the place in their life where they were. See, two things can be true. My parents loved me, but then at the same time, they did hurt me. And both of those can be true. So, can I say my mother did the best she knew how to do? Yes. And at the same time, can I say there were things I needed that I did not receive? They both can be true for mothers, fathers, and children. I can also say my father provided for us, but then in the same breath say, I wish he had been more emotionally available. They both can be true. See, clarity gives us permission to hold gratitude and disappointment at the same time. That's what clarity does. It allows us to hold on to the gratitude and still understand the disappointment at the same time. See, you don't have to turn somebody into a villain to acknowledge they hurt you. And you don't have to deny that you were hurt to acknowledge they loved you. We get confused and believe that the both things cannot exist. Let me know if this is helping you. Siblings. For all of us that have brothers and sisters and siblings and cousins and all that, let's dive into that real quick. See, two siblings can grow up under the same roof and remember completely different childhoods. One would say, we had a wonderful childhood, while the other would say, were we in the same house? See, here's the thing. When your parents have more than one child, they get more than one parent. What does that mean? You're not the same parent for every child that you give birth to. They get a different version of you. You get what I'm saying? Different birth order, different personalities, different expectations, different relationships with the same parent. Come on. See, shared history does not always mean shared experience. There's some freedom in this conversation. See, you could have been in the same house and had completely different experiences. And because we shared the same house, don't mean we share the same experiences, especially ones that we want to remember. Generational parents, see, what did your family normalize? See, in some households, it was normal that nobody ever apologized. In some households, everybody yelled. That was normal. And in some households, nobody ever raised their voice. In some households, money was a secret. In some households, men were told, you better not cry. And maybe women were expected to carry everything. Maybe everybody knew everybody's business. Maybe nobody knew anybody's businesses. See, these are the different type of lifestyles that we live, but we normalize these things in our home, but the world don't know what's normal to us. So this sometimes creates struggle out in the real world. See, every family has a programming. Normal is not always healthy. Sometimes normal is simply, it means it happened often enough that nobody ever questions it. That's what normal means to some of us. And we can end some of the generational things that we know better so we can do better. I'm trying to help. Put your thought in the chat. And we're going to dive into forgiveness next. So open up your heart after this one. Let's dive into family forgiveness. Is there something in your family that you guys stopped discussing, but never actually healed from? Like every family relationship has something that we just stopped talking about, and we actually never healed. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it happened at a funeral or because of a funeral. Maybe it happened at a wedding or because of a wedding. Maybe it happened because of an inheritance that was not properly distributed. Maybe it happened during a divorce. Maybe it's because of money. Maybe someone didn't show up, or maybe someone said something and 20 years passed, 15 years passed, and everybody moved on. However, nobody actually healed. And this is important to relationship because this carries on into other relationships. Unhealed wounds, childhood trauma, things that were not said that should have been said, and things that were said that should not have been said. See, just because families stop discussing the wound, it doesn't mean that the wound stopped influencing the family. See, the apology you may never get, you might still be waiting on an apology that you may never get. You get what I'm saying? See, we're going to talk about closure in a few minutes. See, a lot of us are waiting on closure and apologies, right? We're waiting to hear things like, I'm sorry, or maybe you deserve it. But here's the question. What happens if it never comes? You never get the apology. What if dad never acknowledged whatever it was? What if mom never remembers it differently than what you remembered? What if your siblings refuse to actually have the conversation that's tough? What if that person passed away? Does your healing still remain unfinished or unhealed? Are you still unhealed if someone leaves without confirming that this thing happened or whatever it caused and not receiving the apology? This can happen. But here's something that we need to remember. You can deserve an apology and still decide your healing will not be held hostage, waiting for that one person to apologize. See, a lot of us deserve apologies, but we shouldn't let it decide our healing. whenever you're waiting on closure or an apology, it's basically holding that emotion hostage, waiting for an apology. Think about it. So turn the family matrix around, because somebody may be waiting for an apology from you. Maybe your child needs an apology. Maybe you need to tell your child, I was wrong in that scenario. But children, maybe your parent needs to hear it too. Some of us might be judging others without understanding. Like, there are versions of us that judge our parents, but we didn't understand why they did what they did, or why they did not do what they should have done. And some of us parents are judging the children without understanding, without complete understanding, without clarity. You know what I'm saying? Maybe your siblings wasn't there for you, or maybe help you with some of your needs. You get what I'm saying? These things, all these things together, put us in bondage and binded without being able to release, because we're waiting for someone to say, I'm sorry. We're waiting for an apology. We're waiting for closure. You get what I'm saying? An apology stops being accountability when its main purpose becomes explaining why the other people deserve what they did. Think about this. In every family relationship, it doesn't require equal access. I'm going to say that again. In every family relationship, it does not require equal access. What does that mean? We say things like, we're blood. We say things like blood is thicker than water. We say things like we're family. To me, that sounds like a pass for all access. But if you've tarnished that access, or if you've done something to that family member, then maybe they should be permitted to cut off some of the access. You get what I'm saying? Think about that. And what does that look like? Every family member shouldn't get all access. It should be layered based on who the individual is. That's my belief system, right? Maybe we can talk about everything but finances. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we can talk about everything but involving each other's marriages or personal affairs. Like, you got to figure out what access do you give to family. So basically, some of us believe that all access is for blood. Not necessarily. Because we're born into that institution doesn't mean that that institution is going to care for us the way we deserve to be cared for. So you have to monitor the access, and it is okay. Because sometimes unintentionally people may be harmful, or they may borrow and not return, or they may speak too much, or they may do or say things to hurt you. So you got to control that access to you. The Dawson says, some of us are not expecting an apology because they don't believe or want to acknowledge that they were wrong in the first place. Absolutely. Absolutely. But the truth of the matter is, and that's a great point, is that regardless of where you are, don't let it hold you hostage. Everybody you love does not automatically require the same level of access. And everybody, you can change somebody's access without changing your capacity to love them. Think about that. You can change access, but you can still love them the same. You can actually do both. All right? Hopefully this is helping somebody. Let me read some of the comments. Bridget said, yes, you're right. Yep. Yeah, a lot of us was brought up, Be Blessed brought up a good point. You know, you do what they say do. You couldn't express yourself. You couldn't talk. That was the way they did it. But that's the way they understood to do it. But we're in a new generation. Things are different. So family is, we're always evolving. We're always evolving, right? So what we're going to do after this quick break, we're going to talk about family and marriage. Now remember, this is my perspective, right? This is my perspective. I'm going to read some of the comments before I go on this quick little break. Tar said, sometimes we don't know what we've done. We just see that there's a change in the relationship. And that is so true. And this is why communication is so important. See, here's the thing. When things happen to us, we automatically assume that the person that did it is completely aware of what was done. And then it goes without being communicated of what's done or what has been done. But we're expecting the response of someone that has knowledge of what they've done. So how many of us are holding hostage circumstances, right? And things that were done to you by people that may be unaware of what they done or the effect that it had on you, right? Some people, this is so true, so true. Thank you for this comment, Trina. Some people, most people have unexpressed expectations. Most of us have unexpressed expectations. What does that mean? We expect people to know what they need to do, know what they need to say, but we haven't expressed a desire to have that answer. We haven't expressed what is it that we expect, but we still expect it. Think about that. How many of us are expecting results from unexpressed expectations? I'm trying to help. Yes. Good evening to you, Be Red. Thanks, Jazzy. Hey, there's a question. I think is it Cynthia? Renee, can you pin that question or put it back in the chat? I want to answer that. It's on TikTok. This is a great conversation, man. I hope I'm opening up some minds and some hearts, right? So I'm gonna answer this question, then I'm gonna jump right into for my marriage, family and marriage, and if you divorced or still married or looking to get married, you want to pay attention to this, all right? So get your husbands, and if you're divorced, this is gonna bring some clarity. If you're thinking about getting married, this is going to bring some clarity. Thanks, Renee. So she said, I just moved my dad with me to care for him, but he needs him to apologize to me. What should I say? So she's saying she just moved her dad in with her to care for him, um, but needs him to apologize, what should I say? Nothing. I'm gonna tell you why. So I gotta stop the music for this, right? So you just moved your dad in, and you're his caregiver now, and you need him to apologize for leaving you as a child. What should you do? And this is just my opinion. Here's the thing. It's unexpressed expectations, which is, like Trina said, you have unexpressed expectations, right? But your dad leaving you was a decision that was made from a place he was at the time that he did it. See, people evolve, and I'm not making any excuses. I'm saying that we said earlier that each child gets a different parent. I don't know what number child you were, 1, 2, 3, wherever you fell, but at the end of the day, there's a different version of your parent that you received. And depending on the climate and the era that he was in, that decision he made was based on the climate that he was in at the time. Now, moving umpteen years later, you're still carrying the burden of the abandonment. So, one, for you to have him apologize, I think if he's in his right faculty, he knows what he did. That apology may come at the very last minute, or it may not come at all, right? So for you to say that you need to apologize, then you're invoking something that may not be as genuine as you would like it. So one of the first things I would do is suggest therapy, family counseling, right? 2, he's well aware of where you are and where he is and what state he's in, if he's in his right mind. So he's feeling something. If he has a conscience, it's weighing on him because he remembers what he did, and he remembers why. So for me, I would just continue to be at peace and be yourself and be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And by doing so, his heart will be so heavy and he'll be so weighted by his history and the decisions he made that maybe before he depart, that he'll say the things he need to say. But even if he don't, understand, you are not to allow him to hold what you're feeling hostage. You have got to find a way to release what you're feeling. Because right now you're binded by that situation and you've carried it for far too long. So hopefully this answer helps you. Yes. So, all my married folks, y'all ready? It's a great conversation going in tonight, though. Hey, listen, for my family and married people, right? Here's one everybody can understand. You get married and your spouse says, your family is too involved. Your family says, ever since you married him or her, you've changed. Here's the question. How do I honor the family I came from without allowing them to govern the family I'm building? See, marriage doesn't require forgetting where you came from, but every marital disagreement cannot become a committee meeting with mom, dad, sister, 3 cousins, and your best friends. That's your business. Some relationship problems become family problems because too many people were giving voting rights in your relationship, and they don't even live in your relationship. Here's something to think about. Your family legacy. Let me know if this is helping you. If I'm going too fast and I can revisit something. Thinking about something in your family, right? The legacy. Something your family gave you that deserves to continue. For example, faith, work ethic, humor, education, tradition, resilience, your ability to serve and help people, right? Think about that for a second. Let's think about your family legacy and how important it is. See, there's a way that we can keep something that's important, but also discard those things that holds us back in our future relationship. For example, you can't force, and you shouldn't force, an old tradition into a new situation. So when you're married, you marry the institution, but the institution doesn't own you. And the institution is the family. You get what I'm saying? You create your own dynamic in your own relationship. And I think a lot of relationships don't work because the outside dynamics influence what happens internally in your relationship. You get what I'm saying? But you can hold on to the good things that you brought from your family, your faith, your work ethics, education, tradition, resilience, service, belief system, the positive things. But then you should build your own community. Does that make sense to you? See, legacy isn't only what you leave to your family. Legacy is also what you refuse to leave inside your family. You get what I'm saying? So if you come from brokenness, do not break those who you're raising. Does that make sense? See, you may not be responsible for the family system you were born into, but eventually you become responsible for what you continue, what you change, what you carry forward. You are responsible for that. Now let's talk about the people who we choose, our friends. Put yes in the chat if you ever lost a friendship that hurt as deeply or deeper than a romantic breakup. We're going somewhere with this. So if you ever had one of those friendships that was so close and dear to you and you lost it and it hurt real bad, we're going to discuss that. And hopefully we get some answers. Hey, put your suggestions, your thoughts in the chat. Let me know if this is making sense. Is it helpful? I want to know. Are we going in the right direction? Hopefully we're freeing some of that. And then we're going to get into some relationships, dating after 50. So invite your friends. If you know somebody that need to hear this conversation, we got a few more minutes. So we're going to talk about friendship. And I'm going to add a different perspective to friendship, right? See, a lot of us, we think we lost friends for the wrong reason, and hopefully this adds some clarity to it. When friendships change, maybe nobody betrayed anybody. Maybe it could be just because you got married and they stayed single. Maybe you had children and they didn't. Maybe you moved. Maybe you changed careers. Maybe you started a business. Maybe you stopped drinking. Maybe you stop smoking. Maybe your values evolved. Maybe your priorities shift. So ask, did the friendship become bad, or did the circumstances that sustained it change? See, not every relationship that ends was a failed relationship. Some relationships were meaningful for the season of which they existed. And be careful saying, I outgrew them. Maybe, but maybe you grew differently. See, let's keep our egos intact. I hear a lot of people say, I outgrew them. But that may not be the case. Maybe you grew differently. See, growth doesn't make a person better than the other. Sometimes growth simply creates distance between direction. So you can grow in different directions. It's just like a tree limb. And it's just like a tree. How many of y'all know that a tree grows both ways? It grows down and up at the same time. And they're both important, because without the root, there's no fruit. I'm trying to help somebody. See, friendship should be a reciprocity. Does friendship have to be 50-50? Not necessarily. Sometimes I may only have 20 and the other friend may have 80. And that goes with life and relationships. Doesn't always have to be half-half. Every day we get a different version. There's going to be a percentage more or less, but as long as it equals 100, then we're good. You get what I'm saying? So think about that. Healthy relationships aren't always equal in every moment, but they should not remain one-sided. Think about that. Healthy relationships are not always equal, and they never will always be equal, but it should not be just one-sided. Here's another one. Do they consider you the same level friend that you consider them? Maybe you call them best friend, and maybe they just called you by your name. Maybe you are a friend to them and they're a best friend to you. Sometimes the heartbreak isn't discovering somebody was a terrible friend. It's discovering you assigned the relationship a level of intimacy they never assigned to you. Think about that. Think about that for a second. Friendship and success. Can you celebrate your friend? I know all of y'all are going to say yes. Can you celebrate your friend while you still waiting? Their business is working. They got married. They got promoted. They're wealthy. Opportunity came to them. Can you celebrate them, right? And before we diagnose everyone else's jealousy, ask, have I ever been jealous of somebody I genuinely loved? And most of us are going to say no. Before you diagnose jealousy in everybody around you, make sure you're equally willing to investigate jealousy inside your own self. Think about it. Some of us have a hard time receiving the truth. Can your friend tell you the truth? Do you want friends who support you or friends who agree with you all the time? Those always are not the same thing. See, some of us want friends to always agree with them. That's not necessarily friends. A good friend is somebody that says to you, I love you, but you're wrong. And see, this goes for relationships, personal relationships, friendships, companions, whatever it is, relationships with your siblings, parents. You get what I'm saying? Friendship and trust. Can a friendship survive a betrayal? This is deep because I've experienced this more than probably anybody I know. The betrayal. Can a friendship really survive a betrayal? I'm going to say sometimes, but remember, forgiveness, trust, and access. And that's how you proceed. You can forgive somebody that betrayed you, but remember the amount of access that you give them. And also remember trust. Get what I'm saying? Forgiveness addresses the wound, and this is for everyone, not just friends. Forgiveness addresses the wound. Trust addresses the future. Access addresses the relationship. See, forgiveness can be personal. Reconciliation is relational. Maybe you need to forgive them. Maybe they need to forgive you. Maybe you need to rebuild the trust, or maybe your access need to change. I don't know where you are, but this is something you need to think about. Maybe you need to make the call. Maybe you disappeared. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? There's so many things that happen. There's so many variations, but like I said earlier in this conversation, your perspective is not always reality. And this is why clarity comes in, because clarity seeks the truth. Do yourself a favor. Do not bury a repairable relationship under pride simply because neither person wants to make the first call. I'm trying to help somebody. Some of you have people that you haven't spoken to in a long time, and you are burying a repairable relationship but refuse to make a simple first call. Think about that. That's right. Forgiveness is peace. All right, stay with me. We're getting to the juicy stuff right now, the good stuff. The 4 different types of relationships. One of them we want to talk about is the intimate relationship. Talking about marriage, dating, companionship, being single, long-term partnership. So I wanted to cover everybody. We're getting into this relationship. But we're not going to talk about, and I have a couple of people who requested that I speak about being single over the age of 50. And that's a very popular conversation. It's not starting over again. Right? Answer this. When you say I want somebody to love me, what does being loved actually mean to you? If you want to, put it in the chat. And I'm going somewhere with this. What does love really actually mean to you? Does it mean time, affection, respect, security, communication, faithfulness, intimacy, support? Now, does the person you're with know your answer? That's deep. Or are you testing them on information you never gave them? Trina said this earlier. Unspoken expectations can become invisible, right? And then we punish people for failing an exam they didn't know that they were taking. See, a lot of us are walking around with unspoken expectations as a test that people continue to fail, and they never knew it was an exam. So what is it that you did not speak, what expectations you have that others have no idea, and they're failing this exam, they had no idea they were taking. We have these invisible contracts. If you love me, you should know. Should they? If you love me, you would do this. If you cared, you would do this. Should they know? Did you tell them? Did you express it? I'm trying to help somebody. That's right. Some of y'all quiet now in the chat. See, love can bring two people together. But what love cannot do is negotiate the expectation nobody's willing to discuss. See, love brings us together, but love doesn't negotiate our expectations. We're responsible for that conversation. Not expectation that's unexpressed, the conversation that's not being had. That leads into communication. Right? Some people communicate only in disappointment, and I experienced this a lot. In my personal life, in my coaching life, there's some people, especially women. Men sometimes don't communicate at all. But women, a lot of times, communicate out of disappointment. What does that mean? Things have gotten to a level where it's an acute level, and then you express because you're so disappointed. Some people communicate because there's an incident or a situation or an emergency. Just evaluate yourself and figure out what kind of communicator are you. You get what I'm saying? Let me give you an example. Somebody leaves a cup on a counter, and then suddenly you're fighting about it. You get what I'm saying? The cup wasn't the issue. The explosion gets blamed on the last incident. See, what clarity does is investigate everything that was accumulated before the cup was left. See, y'all may have to play that back to get it. We're talking about the root. We're talking about the root. So here's the thing. Anybody, put a 1 in the chat if you've ever been confused at why somebody did something to you or said something to you. Like, have you ever said to yourself, I don't know what or why would they do that? Like, why would they do this to me? I'm a good person. Put a 1 in the chat if you've ever experienced that. Well, will you question yourself? Why would somebody do that to me? Or why would they not do what they're supposed to do? Have you ever been disappointed by that? And I see a lot of people saying yes. Yep. See, a lot of us are confused as to not understanding why somebody would do something to you. Here's part of the answer. It's because you would not have ever done it to them. See, you wouldn't have done what they did to you. See, you wouldn't have cheated. You wouldn't have abandoned them. You wouldn't have lied the way that they lied to you. You wouldn't have betrayed them. So you are trying to make their behavior make sense inside your values. It'll never make sense. And this is why we're confused. So in relationships, when things happen and we don't understand why would somebody do that, we're trying to make their behavior make sense inside of our own values. Sometimes you can't understand what somebody did because you're trying to make their behavior make sense. See, they have their own operating system, and it may be different than yours. Their character may be slightly different than yours. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't excuse what happened, but eventually, you may have to ask this question. Why did they do it? Now that you don't have an answer, at least you know what they are capable of doing. And now you have the responsibility to know how to respond. You're not going to always get the answer on why they did it, but at least you know they're capable of doing it. And now you're responsible for how you respond to what they've done. See, clarity doesn't always come from understanding why they did it. Sometimes clarity comes from accepting that they actually did it. Ooh. Y'all may have to play this back to get it. And for those of us who are hurt, have been hurt, and we want closure, this is going to be important to understand. See, I'm not an advocate of closure because a lot of us don't understand what closure is. And I'm going to give you my definition of closure. See, if you ever said this, I just need closure. What does closure actually mean? Does it mean an apology? An explanation? Does it mean I need a confession? I need to have that final conversation for them to regret losing you? Like, what exactly are you waiting for? What happens if those things never come? Be careful about making the person who hurt you the only person authorized to give you peace. Think about that. Be careful about making the person who hurt you the only person that's authorized to give you peace. Do you want closure or validation? Closure or reconciliation? Do you want closure or one more opportunity? Sometimes we call it closure because admitting we still want the connection is so much harder. Not always, but sometimes. That's why it's important to investigate. I'm going to let that sink. Let me ask you a question. Which is harder, forgiving others or forgiving yourself? Put it in the chat. Yes. Trina says the behavior is the closure. That's a good point. So let me read some of this. Jazzy said, I forgive and move on accordingly. Yes. Cynthia said, I was waiting for the conversation. that it's over now. I'm just not. Okay. Yep. Be blessed. Say I'm my own hardest critic. It's hard to forgive myself, um, but I ask for God forgiveness. Okay, this is a good point. Maybe everybody else has forgiven you, but you're still holding court. Maybe you're still replaying your own mistakes. I should have known. I should have left long time ago. I wasted my time. I failed. Okay, enough. Growth says I've learned. Self-forgiveness says I refuse to require the rest of my life as a payment for something I'm genuinely committed to changing. You could take responsibility for yesterday without sentencing tomorrow. If the lesson changed you, stop requiring the mistake to destroy you. You know what I'm saying? In a nutshell, learn how to forgive yourself. Please. So that you can move on. You can learn a lot about relationships from this next conversation. Nolan and Debbie says both. Both. Forgive others and yourself. Don't give anyone that power. So that's the truth of the matter is when you refuse to forgive yourself or others, ultimately, you don't necessarily possess the power. Yeah, so listen, thank you so much, Trina. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. So do what you got to do. Forgive your people that hurt you, whether they're still here or not. Most importantly, be able to forgive yourself. So I'm not going to call out anybody that's in a relationship or dating or considering a new relationship. But I need to cover this because somebody asked me to. So here it is. Dating and companionship over 50. Now, I want to speak directly to my single people over 50, right? So dating over 50 is not dating at 25, right? What you bring to the table is your story. You bring your history. You bring your children. Maybe even your grandchildren come into the relationship. You bring your careers, you bring your money, you bring your previous marriages. You bring loss, you bring your habits. You also come with responsibilities. You bring your wisdom as well, right? So here's the first question. What matters to you now that did not matter as much 20 or 30 years ago? I'm going to tell you what it is. Your peace, your trust, your faith, your communication, financial responsibility, emotional maturity, companionship, family compatibility. All these things are what you bring. Now, the question is, did your standards change? Are they clear? Of course they're clear. Of course they're clear. See, the older you get, the taller the wall is. Unfortunately, that's what happens with habits and experiences. Experience, what it should do is sharpen your discernment. And that goes for everyone, relationship or not. Life experience should sharpen your discernment. It should not automatically harden your heart. So those of you that have been abused, that have been hurt and broken, those things should sharpen your discernment. It should not automatically harden your heart. You get what I'm saying? You got to ask yourself, what are you looking for? And clarity begins when you first go out on your first date if you're single. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what you're looking for, chemistry can make a decision for you. Remember, attraction is not alignment. And a lot of us got married on attraction. Attraction is not necessarily alignment. Attention is not intention. Availability is not always readiness. Somebody being available to you don't always automatically mean they're prepared for you. For my lonely people, loneliness or alignment, there's a difference. Are you choosing somebody because the two of you align or because you're tired of being alone? See, loneliness can make availability look like compatibility. Don't let fear of being alone convince you to accept a relationship that you feel alone when you're in. Some of y'all gonna get that later. See, here's my idea on a person or potential for those who are seeking, right? Are you dating or entertaining someone that has potential? That's dangerous. Think about that for a second. Potential is not a relationship. Potential is a possibility. Think about it. Potential could be very disappointing. Are you in a relationship with somebody because it's your preference or your requirement? Are they meeting your preference? What attracts you, what sustains you, those may be very different. You get what I'm saying? Know the difference. Preference, tall, dark, and handsome. But he may not meet the requirements. He may be broken, or abusive. Know the difference between preference and requirements. And now that we're mature, we need to understand. Maturity is learning the difference between what attracts you and what sustains you. You get what I'm saying? Ask yourself this question, ladies. How much of your past is still dating with you? Ooh. How much of your past is still dating with you? How much of your divorce is still lingering? How much of the betrayal is still with you? How much of your widowhood is still following you? How much of your heartbreak is traveling with you? How much of your distrust is following you? How much of your lack of confidence or self-confidence or self-awareness, how much are you bringing with you? So you could be married and still have your divorce in your current marriage. You could come from a broken situation and still be comparing your now situation to your past brokenness. So in that case, are they really getting to know you? See, the relationship you're in now or about to get into should not have to stand trial for the crimes of a previous relationship. Your past should teach you. It shouldn't automatically sentence everybody who comes after it. Think about that. See, when you bring all that stuff from your previous divorces, from your abandonment, your childhood trauma, all of the issues that occurred in your last situations or previous relationships, when you bring all of that, do you literally have room for somebody? You get what I'm saying? See, you cannot ask somebody to become a part of your life while leaving no room in your life for that person. Some of us are in marriages where we came packed and there's no room for the other person to fit, and they're trying to squeeze into your life. But you came with so much luggage and issues and drama and family and brokenness, and now you're holding on to her. You need an extra storage space and still don't have room for the other person. I'm just trying to help. So a good relationship shouldn't permanently compensate for a bad agreement. Who owns what? Who decides what? Who has authority? What is expected? What's documented? What happens when performance doesn't meet expectations, right? Professional clarity never requires the relationship to do the job itself. So if we want true companionship and true love, we don't put all the work on love. We have to do some of the work. We have to do some of the work. So here's the deal. This has been a great conversation, and there's so much more. It's 10 o'clock, but I'm going to continue this because this conversation can go on long. But at the end of the day, hopefully what you've heard today about family, relationship, communication, and all the topics that we covered, hopefully it was blessing. It was a blessing to you like it was for me. Somebody said I should write a book about it. Listen, I've been doing nothing but the last couple of years but researching and putting this together based on real scenarios. So the next episode for Tuesday is going to be about the matrix. And what does that mean? The matrix of corporate and the corporate ecosystem. What does that mean? That means that if you had a job, if you live in a community or society, you're inside a matrix. So this is not like an extreme, anti-conversation. This is basically having us to understand where we are in the matrix of life. You get what I'm saying? So one of the things we have to do moving forward is understand accountability and responsibility and make better decisions, and understand no decision is a decision. So for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be covering a different topic every Tuesday, but I do want to cover, somebody requested that we speak about the corporate world and how it controls us, and we don't control what we do in the corporate world. And I can explain to you why, but it all leads to mindset, and I'm going to break that down next Tuesday about being in the matrix as it relates to the decisions that we make for our life. Why do we stay on the job so long? Why do we live in a certain society? What's the deal with the healthcare system and all of that? I'm not going to necessarily explain all of it, but the plan is to get us to understand, once you recognize where you fit in the matrix, then you know how to move. Why am I stuck here? Why did I plateau here? Why are my kids performing this way? Why are we the sandwich community where we're the community that takes care of our children and our parents at the same time, right? Why this is happening? It's a matrix. And once you understand what the matrix is, you'll know how to move and you'll know your position. So hopefully this conversation tonight helped you. I know I enjoyed it. Listen,